awesome and amazing day, victorious people. I'm super excited because I'm standing here with Mr. Mark Greer, and he is one of the candidates for Akron's mayor. So I have one question for you. So how are you tonight?
I'm doing really well.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yes. So we're at the Akron Urban League at the Mayoral Forum. So we're at the VIP level.
Absolutely.
And so I have one question for you. And what does a successful mayor, what does that look like for you, and how do you envision that?
I think for me, a successful mayor means one who is not only elected to represent the people, but one who really serves them. I think that when I look at the city of Akron, I would judge my success on how I have helped lift the most marginalized, underserved, and underprivileged among us.
Okay.
Because I think that if we look at a city from only one perspective and not the complete collective lens, then we really lose the whole idea of why we serve, why we're elected, and why we govern. So for me, the condition of our most marginalized, forgotten communities is of the utmost importance.
No, I totally love that. And what you were talking about last night in one of the debates, you were talking about young black men, you know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
And I definitely believe that our representatives need to represent and look like the community. So,
Yes, I agree.
And I can feel your passion. I hear your passion when you speak. And just right now with that answer, I don't think it was just an answer. I believe that you actually live that.
Amen.
And you do that when you talk about serve. You're talking about a servitude attitude.
Right.
And that translates to the community. And so I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
So what are your top 3 priorities if you are elected?
Well, I would say first of all, when we talk about public safety, and we have to build and restore trust between law enforcement and particularly our black community.
Right.
But that means we have to call for justice. You know, justice cannot be divorced from accountability and trust. And so I think that building trust starts there, but then also recognizing that all of our neighborhoods deserve to be safe.
Yes.
And so, you know, I grew up on the west side of Akron. I grew up off of Copley Road. And if I don't feel safe in my community where I live, but then we allow violence to persist in areas of our city, but then we wouldn't allow that in more affluent areas. That's a problem, and that's not equity.
That is a problem.
So I want to really focus on public safety, but also housing. Housing is huge. I think that we have 50% of Akronites who are renting, and that tells me that we need more affordable housing options, not less.
Okay.
And that means changing the zoning. Zoning laws that have been in place since the early 1900s and are so antiquated, and we know also historically discriminatory. So I want to really bring transformational change. And then the other one for me is small business.
I love that.
I was the small business program manager at the city of Akron, and when I look at how particularly our minority-owned businesses have been X'd out of so many of the opportunities, the assistance programs, because a lot of our small businesses are sole proprietorships. Okay. So then when you have programs that do not allow sole proprietors in them, how is that equity? Yeah. So I really am focused on our administration will be the most pro-small business administration that Akron has ever seen.
Love that, and I believe that will definitely build up the economy.
Definitely.
And keep people here in Akron, because I know you all were talking about some people are talking about leaving.
Definitely.
So I think those are huge priorities. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your passion and your servitude
Thank you
attitude.
so much.
So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so I am here with another candidate for Akron City Mayor. I'm super excited. This is Keith here.
Hello.
We just met.
Yeah.
Although I've been watching and keeping up with the debates and things like that.
Definitely.
So my first question to you is, what would be your first top 3 priorities if you were elected as mayor?
Ooh, top 3. Okay. Wow. So I guess my biggest is complete communication and transparency of how we do things down at City Hall, how the whole process works, how you can get involved, how can I be more involved, and making sure that the citizens of Akron know that their mayor is accessible and is held to a high regard and is held accountable. A mayor that, hey, if it's me, God willing, it'll be, hey, Mr. Mills, you did this, you need to fix this, then of course I'll be like, okay, well, I'm sorry I did that, and then I fix it. So that's probably the first one. Second one is assessing all of the housing in Akron to find out where we can acquire land so we can start selling it to the citizens at cost.
Okay.
And then the third would be, everybody says safety, 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 and that's huge. So I don't want to say almost my third one, but that would come in number 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I love that. Talking about safety, I believe you were talking about this last night, where you were saying pretty much community policing and having that trust with the officers. Where
Yes.
you were like. I don't know where you grew up, but where I grew up,
Yes, absolutely.
Police officers really weren't as,
They weren't.
open, relatable, transparent
Right.
as what you were talking about.
Yep.
So, you were saying for the officers to have their windows down, knock on the doors, come and talk to the children if they're outside. So elaborate
Yes.
more on that.
So it should never be a us versus them. That gets us nowhere as a community or as a society. I'm really bent, I just cannot deal with the Democrat versus Republican versus this, because as a society there's nothing for us. So there's no reason, even at the community level, for them to think that we have to be under their watch or judged, or that we are any less than they are. Expounding from that, I have not constituents, but I have people reaching out to me saying, hey, I approached Officer so-and-so and he rolled his window up. Or I have, he was filming me with his personal camera. Or
wow.
I go up to them and they drive away. Or so it's how can I, those are just off-putting. And it's almost the same thing when I was growing up as a little kid 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know who Officer Smith is, or Officer Ryan, or Officer this.
Yeah.
Why don't you stop? And, people say, well, we only have 10 officers. No, we make it part of every officer's job.
Yeah.
You're getting higher money, and I know that you put your life on the line. I actually applied for APD, got accepted, took the test. I have to do the physical still. Because I really believe that if you want change, you have to be the change.
Oh man, that's so good.
So So it's just those small steps, and it's a customer service-minded approach. Hey, it's not me against you. It's how can I help you? How can I help it where you get through the day?
Yeah, let's get through this together. Hold my hand, I'll hold yours,
Correct.
and we'll get through this together.
Correct. That's what I do. I primarily teach in a behavior unit for and stuff, and I make relationships every day. I have kids texting me who, when I'm off, saying, "Hey man, you gonna be here today? Hey man, you gonna be?" And who does that?
Yeah.
If you don't build a relationship.
Right.
I have them coming with me with personal information they would not tell certainly people because of how they would take it.
Yeah.
So it's
again,
that
you're being
confidence.
the change that you want to see. And
Definitely.
I heard this before that the person who we are now is the person we wanted or needed when we were children. So,
Yes. Yes.
So I feel as if though,
For
because
sure.
you were telling that story, that you're being the person that you wanted someone to be when
Back
you were
then.
younger. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
Thank you for being, the courage that you have to run for
I
mayor.
keep hearing
You know what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
for
kudos
sure.
to you. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
that, and thank you for your time today.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Schaefer. I think it's so interesting, and I love how you said, I'm an average Joe.
I mean, I am.
I'm an average Joe. So with that being said, being an average Joe, what is your vision for Akron?
Well, I do have a really big vision for Akron. First
Okay.
of all, I think that the average Joe people want an average Joe representative. So we have people who are lawyers and who are, people.
Come closer to me.
Okay.
It's all good.
We have lawyers and a deputy mayor, and we have people that are no longer in touch with the average Joe people.
Okay.
So just because I'm an average Joe person doesn't mean that I don't have the experience to back it up. So I have a degree in political science and criminal justice, a minor in psychology, a certificate of applied politics. I've interned in the Senate, I've interned in Jerusalem, and I have 15 years of management experience in the private sector.
Yeah.
So I'm here to take that and be that outsider candidate in order to make change in Akron.
Yeah, so I absolutely love that, and I think that's phenomenal. Having that technical background, the education, and I think I was having this conversation before with someone where I think it's so important to be able to understand each level, right? So when you come from a certain level, you understand that, and then you know that, and you understand that. So with that being said, what are your top 3 priorities to execute when you become mayor?
So my top 3 priorities are progressive crime control.
Okay.
We're going to do crime control in a progressive way, which includes mental health reform and defunding the war on drugs. My second priority is funding the neighborhoods. We're not funding our Black and our immigrant neighborhoods right now.
Okay.
And we can see what's going on. They're spending millions of dollars on statues downtown while people in the Black neighborhoods and the immigrant neighborhoods still don't have new roads, still don't have new schools.
Yeah.
And then third is my green jobs economy. I'm planning on investing heavily in green energy, in solar panels and in wind turbines, as well as green energy education at the University of Akron. Whether people choose job training or college degree is up to them.
Okay.
And that's also going to include environmental justice. We're going to remove the lead pipes that are still plaguing families.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5% of families that are still drinking water out of lead pipes.
Yeah.
And it's disproportionately in the Black neighborhoods. So that's something that is going to be a top priority of mine. We're going to make sure that nobody in Akron has to drink water out of lead pipes anymore in 2023.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing your vision. And I look forward to, if you're elected, to seeing exactly what it is that you're going to do. Especially you saying, I'm the average Joe, right?
Well, count on me.
So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Awesome and amazing day, victorious people. I am here with Mr. Jeff Wilhite, and I'm super excited to speak with him because he shares the mindset that I have, and that's an opportunistic, a good opportunity mindset. He says, turn those no's into new opportunities.
That's
I'm
right.
going to put that into my tool belt if you don't mind.
That's okay. That's okay.
So what do you mean by that when you do say that?
Well, I think it comes from my background. I'm an optimist by nature.
Yeah.
I'm a glass half full guy. I always have been and always will be. And this city has the kind of people in it that can make that happen on a regular basis. Keep that glass half full, but work towards filling that glass so that we have some really good programming. We have some good response. There's equity for folks across the board, no matter what the community is, where it's located, what their socioeconomic status is. How do we lift everybody up through that optimism?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I absolutely love that. And so that brings me to my next question, and you kind of hit on it a little bit. So what does a successful mayor, what does that look like for you?
A successful mayor to me is one that absolutely has an open relationship with the community. Someone who, if I go to Ward 10, go to Ward 1, wherever I go, folks understand they've got a friend, they've got someone who wants to work with them, someone who doesn't put silos up I've always been the type of person, I don't judge folks. I want to work with folks. And, Dr. King said it best when he asked the question, what do you want, chaos or community?
Wow.
I'm going to come down on the side of community every chance I get.
That's huge. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that really speaks to who you are and the man that you are as a character.
I appreciate that.
I
Thank
really
you so
love
much.
that.
That's kind of you.
Optimistic mindset. That's awesome. And having that community, bringing everyone together. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Amazing
you.
responses tonight. You were cool, calm, collected, but still made sure that you made your point in every
Thank
single
you.
response. So
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks so
My
much.
pleasure.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you.
We want to make sure that when we select the next mayor, we select someone who has actually done the work, someone who's been involved, someone who has experience. I started a business from scratch. I got a loan from scratch. I developed the city council as the president and got more people involved in that situation. I hired young people to work with me at the city council and had little internships because I knew if kids got exposed to what we were trying to do, it would change their life and put them in a much better position. And let me tell you, this job is not for someone for on-the-job training. It's just too complicated. There's too many things you have to look out for. And if you don't understand business and money and politics, you can't be an effective mayor. But the most important is that you have to always be honest with people, always tell the truth, and always move the city forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Amazing day, victorious people. I'm super excited because I am here standing by the side of the one woman who is on the panel, and I'm super excited about that. And that really shows representation and that we can sit on at any table and any board, so thank you so much for having the courage, for walking in your purpose and your experience, So I know it can be a bit tough holding your own in a room full of boys or a room full of men.
Right. And I do it in heels.
And you do it in heels, right? That's even more better. More better. Yeah, that's right. So something that you said tonight just really resonated with me. A lot of the candidates were talking about, well, a few were talking about the representation, how our police community and our law enforcement, those of that nature, should represent or mimic what the community looks like. And something that you stated, I was like, wow, that is awesome. Or is it a bad thing? I don't know.
Right.
So I'm looking forward.
Right.
So right now, the police academy has more women in the police academy than it has in a decade.
A decade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
That is so.
We are still breaking glass ceilings.
Yeah.
But that means we need to do more to make sure that women feel invited into the space.
Yeah.
So now that we have this academy of diversity and to have all these women now in that academy, it's a beautiful thing. Women just handle things differently. We have a different temperament when dealing with people, and I do believe that will show when these women come out of the academy in November and sworn in as officers and they go into our communities. I know there will be a paradigm shift with these women being there.
I totally agree, because you are also a boy mom.
I am.
And you share some of the challenges that you've had with your son.
Yeah.
So when it comes to mental health, how are you going to approach, or what tools or programs are you going to implement if you're elected as mayor?
So one of the things that we have in our platform on mosleyformayor.com, we talk about creating a City of Akron First Step program. So we need to make sure that we're meeting people where they are and being intentional about it. If that means that you have to go out into the vineyard and find them and give them the help and the services that they really need, instead of relying on them to call 211 or them going to seek a counselor, because really when someone is really dealing with a mental health episode, they're not going to look. You have to go and find them and find out how you can help them. I've dealt with that with my son. There's been times when, we've had to, have him put in a hospital. So I really understand what it's going to take to deal with the mental health and the wellness of a person's mind. So when I see these different platforms come out and mental health and addiction is at the bottom, that always is so disheartening to me, because we have a real serious issue in our community that no one wants to talk about, and we have to address it. So if we want to talk about public safety, we have to talk about mental health and addiction. If we want to talk about better housing, we have to talk about mental health and addiction. If we want to talk about job creation, we absolutely have to talk about mental health and addiction, because if the person's mind is not healthy, how can you expect them to work a job?
Absolutely, and sustain that job.
And sustain that job.
You know, and another layer to that too is something else that you were talking about the minimum wage.
Oh,
right?
yes.
You know, and that goes into the housing crisis and things like that. So how can we expect individuals to thrive if one of those baselines, you know, having an income, is not actually there? So you were talking about $24, right? So where did that number come from?
So there is a charter amendment coming through the state of Ohio that I have helped organize for this portion of Ohio, where we are calling for a state minimum wage of $24 an hour. It will be incremental, but we need to get there by 2025. Like, we can all keep talking about all this housing and having housing for people, but if they do not have a livable wage to be able to pay the rent of that house or pay the mortgage in that house, then we're just doing lip service. And again, we're going to be yet again having an eviction crisis here in the city of Akron. So we have to start with making sure that livable wage is there in place so people can actually take care of their families.
Oh my gosh. Such a powerful young lady here, you know, and I'm super excited to hear more about what you have to say. But not only that, but to do the thing that you do and walk the walk in heels.
In heels.
In heels. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your service, and continue doing what you're doing with your son as well. Because when you do things at home, you know, you do things in the community. And when you do things in the community, you can do it in your city, your state, and it just goes on and on. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
As I said at the beginning, we've all watched our city struggle. We've watched people leave. We watch young people leave as quickly as they can find another opportunity. If we don't do things differently, we will continue. Even the most experienced leader, even the most well-intentioned person will just manage to climb. Right. That is the reality. Right. I have a track record of trying to do things differently, of pushing for actual change and getting it done. I will never stop working hard for you, but more importantly, I will never stop working hard with you, alongside you. Every one of the 190,000 people in this community can be a part of making our community safer, a part of making sure our children grow up with amazing education. We can all do this together, but only if we are willing to believe in something different, something better for our community.
Awesome and amazing day, victorious people. And we're back again, and we're talking with Mr. Shamus Malik. Oh my gosh. I just want to say something that you said on the panel today. You were talking about dignity and respect, right? So I'm not going to go too far, because I want you to share the passion that we were just talking about that dignity and respect. So what do you mean by that?
So every time someone interacts with city government, they have the opportunity to be treated with dignity and respect. They must be treated with dignity and respect. And that's if it's a zoning issue, if it's the police department, it's the water department, and we really have a ways to go, right? Yeah. It's a top-down city government. A lot of folks don't feel heard, especially on these really heavy issues. You know, I've been on city council for 3 years, and the first year was the murder of George Floyd. Last year was when Jaylen Walker was killed, right? And there's so much pain, and when we don't deal with the issues, and then we continue to come to people and ask them for their support or for their help or whatever, people say, the people say, like, what do you want from me? I've told you what I want. You just need to go do it.
Yeah, that's it. You know, so with that being said, what are your top 3, you know, priorities if you're elected mayor?
Yeah. So I mean, the biggest one is safety, really, and really building a community where everyone is a part of making a safer community. And that starts with community policing and making sure our officers are out there building trust and building relationships.
Yeah.
But it also means that we have to get to our young kids long before anything ever bubbles over into violence, right?
Something that you said earlier too, you know, every third grader needs a mentor.
Yes.
Every fourth grader needs a mentor. So I love that. Yeah.
And just dealing with this basic stuff, making sure that we're investing in our young people.
Yeah.
You know, they're dealing with such challenges when it comes to housing, when it comes to safety, when it comes to education, right? And so those are we've 4 issues of safety, education, jobs, and housing, right?
Yes.
And we have a plan around each of those with priorities. These aren't priorities that I picked out, right? I mean, I
You're
helped,
listening.
but these are things that people have talked about
Yes.
for decades, right?
Yeah.
You can go back to conversations that have happened in this room,
Yes.
conversations that have happened before this room even existed, right?
Yeah. So thank you so much. I appreciate your passion. Right, I can feel that not only right here, but when you're on the panel in the debates, I can tell that you're very thorough and you want to make sure that people are getting what they're asking for and not just saying something, you know. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. You know, it's that servitude attitude. I can tell you're that kind of guy. So.
Servant leadership.
Yes, I love that.
Yep.
So thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you.